Tank Man, also known as the Unknown Protester or Unknown Rebel, is the nickname of an unidentified Chinese man who stood in front of a column of Type 59 tanks leaving Tiananmen Square in Beijing on June 5, 1989, the day after the Chinese government's violent crackdown on the Tiananmen protests. As the lead tank maneuvered to pass by the man, he repeatedly shifted his position in order to obstruct the tank's attempted path around him. The incident was filmed and shared to a worldwide audience. Internationally, it is considered one of the most iconic images of all time. Inside China, the image and the accompanying events are subject to censorship. There is no reliable information about the identity or fate of the man. The story of what happened to the tank crew is also unknown. At least one witness has stated that Tank Man was not the only person to have blocked the tanks during the protest, but Tank Man is unique in that he is the only one who was photographed and recorded on video. At the northeast edge of Tiananmen Square, along Chang'an Avenue shortly after noon on June 5, 1989, the day after the Chinese government's violent crackdown on the Tiananmen protests, Tank Man stood in the middle of the wide avenue directly in the path of a column of approaching Type 59 tank. Stuart Franklin, who was on assignment for Time magazine, told the New York Times, "At some point, shots were fired, and the tanks carried on down the road toward us, leaving Tiananmen Square behind, until blocked by lone protesters. He wore a white shirt and black trousers, and he held 2 shopping bags. As the tanks came to a stop, the man gestured at them with one of the bags. In response, the lead tank attempted to drive around the man, but the man repeatedly stepped into the path of the tank in a show of non-violent action. After repeatedly attempting to go around, the lead tank stopped its engines and the armored vehicles behind it followed suit. There was a short pause with the man and the tanks having reached a quiet, still impasse. Having successfully brought the column to a halt, the man climbed onto the hull of the buttoned-up lead tank and, after briefly stopping at the driver's hatch, appeared in video footage of the incident to call into various ports in the tank's turret. He then climbed atop the turret and seemed to have a short conversation with a crew member at the gunner's hatch. After ending the conversation, the man descended from the tank. The tank commander briefly emerged from his hatch, and the tanks restarted their engines, ready to continue on. At that point, the man, who was still standing within a meter, yard, or 2 from the side of the lead tank, leapt in front of the vehicle once again and quickly re-established the man-tank standoff. Video footage shows 2 figures in blue pulling the man away and disappearing with him into a nearby crowd. The tanks continued on their way. Eyewitnesses are unsure who pulled him aside. Charlie Cole, who was there for Newsweek, said it was the Chinese government PSB, the police, while Jan Wong, who was there for the Globe and Mail, thought that the men who pulled him away were concerned bystanders. Little is publicly known of the man's identity or that of the commander of the lead tank. Shortly after the incident, British tabloid Sunday Express named him as Wang Weilin, a 19-year-old student who was later charged with political hooliganism and attempting to subvert members of the People's Liberation Army. This claim has been rejected by internal Chinese Communist Party documents which reported that they could not find the man, according to the Hong Kong-based Information Center for Human Rights. One party member was quoted as saying, "We can't find him. We got his name from journalists. We have checked through computers but can't find him among the dead or among those in prison." Numerous theories have sprung up as to the man's identity and current whereabouts. There are several conflicting stories about what happened to him after the demonstration. In a speech to the President's Club in 1999, Bruce Hershenson, former Deputy Special Assistant to President Richard Nixon, alleged that he was executed 14 days later. Other sources alleged that he was executed by firing squad a few months after the Tiananmen Square protests. In Red China Blues, My Long March from Mao to Now, Jan Wong writes that she believes from her interactions with the government press that they have no idea who he was, either, and that he is still alive somewhere on the mainland. Another theory is that he escaped to Taiwan and remains employed there as an archaeologist in the National Palace Museum. This was first reported by the Yonhap news agency in South Korea. The Chinese government has made few statements about the incident or the people involved. The government denounced him as a scoundrel once on state television, but it was never shown publicly again. In a 1990 interview with Barbara Walters, then General Secretary of the Chinese Communist Party, Jiang Zemin, was asked what became of the man. Zemin was asked, "What became of the man?" Jiang first stated, through an interpreter, "I can't confirm whether this young man you mentioned was arrested or not," and then replied in English, "I think that he was never killed." The government also argued that the incident evidenced the humanity of the country's military. In a 2000 interview with Mike Wallace, Jiang said, "He was never arrested." He then stated, "I don't know where he is now." He also emphasized that the tank stopped and did not run the young man over. A PBS interview of 6 experts observed that the memory of the Tiananmen Square protests appears to have faded in China, especially among younger Chinese people due to government censorship. Images of the protest on the internet have been censored in China. When undergraduate students at Beijing University, which was at the center of the incident, were shown copies of the photograph 16 years later, they were genuinely mystified. One of the students said that the image was artwork. It is noted in the documentary Frontline, the tank man that he whispered to the student next to him, 89. It has been suggested that the unknown rebel, if still alive, would never have made himself known, as he may have been unaware of his international recognition due to the Chinese media suppression of events relating to the government protests. At and after the events in the square, the local Public Security Bureau treated members of the international press roughly, confiscating and destroying all the film they could find, and forced the signing of confessions to offenses such as photography during martial law, punishable by long imprisonment. On August 20, 2020, a trailer for Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War showed footage of Tank Man on video platforms in China, like Bilibili. The segment of the trailer was replaced with a black screen. The next day, Activision Blizzard released a shorter version of the trailer worldwide that did not include the scene. On June 4, 2021, the 32nd anniversary of the 1989 Tiananmen Square massacre, searches for the Tank Man image and videos were censored by Microsoft's Bing search engine worldwide. Hours after Microsoft acknowledged the issue, the search returned only pictures of tanks elsewhere in the world. Search engines that license results from Microsoft, such as DuckDuckGo and Yahoo, faced similar issues. Microsoft said the issue was due to an accidental human error. The director of Human Rights Watch, Kenneth Roth, said the idea that it was an inadvertent error is hard to believe. David Green, Civil Liberties Director at Electronic Frontier Foundation, said that content moderation was impossible to do perfectly and egregious mistakes are made all the time, but he further elaborated that at worst, this was purposeful suppression at the request of a powerful state. 5 photographers, one of whom did not share his material for 20 years, managed to capture the event on film that was later confiscated by the PSB. On June 4, 2009, the 5th photographer released an image of the scene taken from ground level. The widest coverage of the event and one of the best-known photographs of the event, appearing in both Time and Life magazines, was documented by Stuart Franklin. He was on the same balcony as Charlie Cole, and his roll of film was smuggled out of the country by a French student concealed in a box of tea. The most used photograph of the event was taken by Jeff Widener of the Associated Press from a 6th-floor balcony of the Associated Press, from a 6th-floor balcony of the Beijing Hotel, mile 800m away from the scene. The image was taken using a Nikon FET2 camera through a Nikkor 400 mm 5.6 AD, IF lens and TC 301 telecometer. Circumstances were against the photographer, who recalled that the picture was almost not taken. Widener was injured, suffering from the flu and running out of film. A friend by the name of Kirk hastily obtained a roll of Fuji 100 AU's color negative film, allowing him to make the shot. Though he was concerned that his shots were no good, his image was syndicated to many newspapers around the world and was said to have appeared on the front page of all European papers. He was also nominated for the Pulitzer Prize but did not win. Nevertheless, his photograph has widely been known as one of the most iconic photographs of all time. Charlie Cole, working for Newsweek and on the same balcony as Stuart Franklin, hid his roll of film containing Tank Man in a Beijing hotel toilet, sacrificing an unused roll of film and undeveloped images of wounded protesters after the PPs raided his room, destroyed the two aforementioned rolls of film and forced him to sign a confession to photography during martial law, an imprisonable offense. Cole was able to retrieve the roll and have it sent to Newsweek. He was awarded the 1990 World Press Photo of the Year, and the picture was featured in Life's 100 Photographs That Changed the World. In 2003, on June 4, 2009, in connection with the 20th anniversary of the protests, Associated Press reporter Terrell Jones revealed a photo he had taken showing the Tank Man from ground level, a different angle from all the other known photos of the Tank Man. Jones wrote that he was not aware of what he had captured until a month later when printing his photos. Arthur Tang Hanwha of Reuters took several shots from room 1111 of the Beijing hotel, but only the shot of Tank Man climbing the tank was chosen. It was not until several hours later that the photo of the man standing in front of the tank was finally chosen. When the staff noticed Widener's work, they rechecked Tang's negative to see if it was of the same moment as Widener's. On March 20, 2013, in an interview by the Hong Kong Press Photographers Association, HKPPPA, Tang told the story and added further detail. He told HKP that on the night of June 3, 1989, he was beaten by students while taking photos and was bleeding. A foreign photographer accompanying him suddenly said, "I am not gonna die for your country," and left. Tsang returned to the hotel. When he decided to go out again, the public security stopped him, so he stayed in his room, stood next to the window, and eventually witnessed the Tank Man and took several shots of the event. In addition to the photography, video footage of the scene was recorded and transmitted across the globe. Australian Broadcasting Corporation ABC cameraman Willie Fuhr, Cable News Network CNN cameraman Jonathan Sher, and National Broadcasting Company MEAKC cameraman Tony Wasserman appear to be the only television cameraman who captured the scene. BC correspondents Max Wechtritz and Peter Cave were the journalists reporting from the balcony. In April 1998, Time included the unknown rebel in a feature titled Time 100, the most important people of the century. In November 2016, Time included the photograph by Jeff Widener in Time 100, the most influential images of all time. In the 1999 Crosby, Stills, Nash Young song Stand and Be Counted, from the album Looking Forward, David Crosby sings of his gratitude to Tank Man, whose photograph he has had framed and mounted. A similar scene is depicted in the music video for Clubfoot 2004 by the English rock band Kasabian, a fictionalized version of the fates of both the Tank Man and a soldier in the tank is told in Lucy Kirkwood's 2013 play Chimerica, which premiered at the Omedia Theatre from May 20, 2020 to July 6, 2013. On June 4, 2013, Xina Weibo, China's most popular microblog, blocked terms whose English translations are today, tonight, June 4, and Big Yellow Duck. If these were searched for, a message appeared stating that, in accordance with relevant laws, statutes, and policies, the results of the search could not be shown. The censorship occurred because a photoshopped version of Tank Man, in which rubber ducks replaced the tanks, had been circulating around Twitter, a reference to Florentine Hoffman's rubber duck sculpture, which at that time was floating in Hong Kong's Victoria Harbour at the conclusion of Laurent Ye's 2018 play The Great Leap, set in Beijing, 1989. The character Wen Chang, the coach of the Beijing University basketball team and a devoted ranking member of the Communist Party, becomes the Tank Man through innovative use of projected media. In April 2019, Leica Camera released an advert depicting photographers in intense political climates, including 1989 China. The 5-minute short ends with a photographer shooting from a hotel window with the Tank Man image reflected in his lens, despite the fact that the original photograph was taken with a Nikon camera. Following censorship of the Leica brand on Sino Weibo, Leica revoked the advert and sought to distance themselves from it.